Hello everyone, I am Dr. Saurabh Sharma and I welcome everyone to the Resident Masterclass course which we are going to launch. It's going to start on the 3rd of February. So I just thought I will give a demonstration session today on an important and a conceptual topic for postgraduates, that is retinal angiography. Even after some 3 years of post-graduation, we have difficulty in understanding this concept. So let us see how we are going to approach this master class. To start with, I will put a disclaimer first that this is a teaching lecture for ophthalmology residents. It's not a presentation or a webinar. It won't be a presentation webinar, but it will be a teaching purposes, and it will be a live course. Everything you will get in a recorded manner as well. There are many other things which I will give in a recorded fashion as well, apart from the live. What is the purpose? What will you gain from these lecture course? Simply put, these 4 things. Basic understanding of the concepts. It will help you to prepare for a viva. It will help in writing your theory. It will help in writing your theory exam answers as well. And of course, everything we will apply clinically, like we will do today in retinal angiography. So starting with the basic concepts of retinal angiography. Angiography means, angio means vessels and graphy means study. The study of the blood vessels of the retina as well as the choroid. To understand this, we should know very basic things. After the basic things which I'll tell you, then I will tell you how to write the answer in the exam, and it's a 10 marks question in your exam for theory if it comes angiography, retinal angiography and clinical applications. It is a 10 marks question which is going to come in your exam. So how to approach this? First we should understand the concepts behind this. So let us dilate the pupil and go inside the eye and see some basic things about the retina. See, retina, the extent of the retina is from the optic disc to the ora serrata. From the optic disc to the ora serrata. You can see this is the optic disc over here, and this is the fovea, macula, which is about 2 disc diameter temporal to the optic disc. So we should understand some basic things regarding this retina, structure of the retina, the layers of the retina, the blood supply of the retina, the blood retinal barriers. Then only we can understand concept of the retinal angiography. Okay, so this is your basic retina picture. This reddish pinkish picture will come to you. What you want to see over here is, if you see, this is the optic disc. Okay, this optic disc is about 1 disc diameter size. 1 disc diameter equal to 1.5 millimeter. If we go 2 disc diameter, ठीक है, मतलब मैथ अच्छी है, 3 millimeter हो गया, temporal, towards the temporal side, we get a small point. That small point is known as foveola. Surrounding the foveola there is an imaginary space, fovea, and surrounding the fovea there is another imaginary space that is known as the posterior pole. We also call it as macula. You see, foveola, fovea, macula are all in the temporal part of the retina. So optic disc is in the nasal part. This is the superior retina. This is the inferior retina. That's the basic structure of a retina. Fovea, foveola, macula are all in the temporal part of the retina. So first thing you should know that which retina is this, right retina or the left retina? That's the basic question which you can ask you in the viva voce, giving you a picture of a angiography or a retina picture, and ask this right eye or left eye. Very simple. So always imagine this is the retina of a patient and you are doctors. Patient is standing face to face towards you. And if I am the patient, you are the doctor, you are seeing me today, this is my right eye, this is my left eye. Fovea of the right eye is always on the temporal side, means right eye temporal is on the right side, left eye temporal is on the left side. So my right eye fovea is here, my left eye fovea is over here. Just see in the picture over here and see where is the fovea. Patient is standing face to face. This is the patient's retina. Where is the fovea? Fovea of this is on the right side. If fovea is on the right side, it has to be of the right eye. So this becomes the right retina, right eye of the patient. If a retina comes like this, ऐसा भी हो सकता है. Where is the fovea? The fovea is on the left side. So this becomes the left eye, left retina. दो ही आंखें, दो ही हो सकते हैं, right retina और left retina. Fovea on the right side is the right, fovea on the left is left. This is the basic structure. If you can see from the optic disc, we have vessels coming. These are the branches of central retinal artery, central retinal vein, which I'll just tell you. But one of these is artery and one of this is vein, A and B. What do you think, which one is an artery and which one is a vein? In retina, the arteriovenous ratio, they are in the same compartment, artery and vein, is 2:3 ratio. Means the lumen of the artery is smaller than the lumen of the vein. So just see who is the lumen. Who is thinner? This B is thinner, means B is artery and A is a vein, because the ratio is 2:3. The lumen of the artery is smaller than the lumen of the vein, 2:3. Alright. And then if you can appreciate, if you look at this central retina, that is the fovea fovula, it's little dark as compared to the rest of the retina. We'll see why it is dark. Because there are some pigments which are present over here, more accumulated in the central retina, that's why it is dark. Alright. So that's the normal structure of the right retina. Now let us see, if we want to do one investigation, without knowing this investigation, we cannot understand. So this is another investigation other than angiography in the retina which we should know, optical coherence tomography. It tells about central retina. It's a scan of the central retina. Okay, only of the central retina it gives scan. And it is in the same orientation. It tells about the layers of the retina. So we should know the layers of the retina. Quickly I'll tell you in this. The inner limiting membrane is the first layer of the retina. So we are going from vitreous towards the choroid. Okay, vitreous, after vitreous comes retina, then comes choroid, then comes sclera. That is the orientation. If we go vitreous, retina, choroid, sclera, there are 10 layers of the retina. The first layer is inner limiting, then comes the nerve fiber layer, then the ganglionic cell layer, then plexiform. Plexiform means synapse. Then inner nuclear. There are some cells in the inner nuclear. There is another synapse, outer plexiform. Then the outer nuclear which contains the rods and cones nucleus. Outer limiting, if there is inner limiting, there has to be outer limiting, rods and cones, and the last layer is retinal pigment epithelium. So these are the 10 layers of the retina, and this OCT gives you interpretation of the layers of the retina in the same manner. From the vitreous, means this black thing is the vitreous. These are the 10 layers of the retina over here. This red line is the retinal pigment epithelium. Then comes choroid, then comes sclera. So it is in the same orientation in which the layers of the retina are. But now, if you can see over here, in the central retina, there is a dip. Why? Everywhere in the retina, from optic disc to ora serrata, there are 10 layers. But what was the centermost point, fovea? It does not contain all the layers. It contains these layers. ILM, ELM has to be there. Outer limiting, inner limiting has to be there. Fovea contains only cones. Rods are not present. And if cones are present, the nucleus of rods and cones are in the outer nucleus. It has to be present. And the red line RP is present everywhere. So only these 5 layers are present in the fovea. And if we add one more layer to the fovea, that becomes fovea. One more outer plexiform layer. Outer plexiform layer, if we add one more, which is a synapse layer and also known as Henle's layer, because the scientist discovered this layer, Henle's layer. So 5 layers in the fovea, 6 layers in the fovea, rest of the retina, macula, ora serrata, everywhere there are 10 layers. That is why if you appreciate this OCT, this demo is not for OCT. I will put I will give you a separate for OCT examination how to interpret. But to understand angiography, to understand the layers, you should know the layers and the blood supply and OCT as well. So this you can see central retina there is a dip. Why? Because the fovea has not 10 layers, they have 5 or 6 layers. Correct? That is why you have a dip in the central retina like this. So these are the layers of the retina. Structure of the retina I told, layers of the retina I told. Now let us come to the blood supply of the retina. So just see the video and then I'll just tell you blood supply. The major blood supply of the retina comes from the internal carotid artery, whose branch is ophthalmic artery. First branch ophthalmic artery, and ophthalmic artery gives many branches. Ciliary artery, central retinal artery. Ciliary can be anterior and posterior. Posterior can be short, can be long. Short posterior ciliary artery supply the optic disc. There are 15 to 20 short posterior ciliary artery. The green thing is there are only two long posterior ciliary artery because they go anteriorly, they are long. And they go anteriorly and anastomose with the anterior ciliary artery. There are 7 anterior ciliary artery. So long posterior ciliary anastomose with the anterior ciliary around the iris, forming some arterial circles. Just for orientation I am telling you. Then the major artery, central retinal artery is also branch of ophthalmic artery. It enters the optic nerve. It enters the optic nerve and it comes from the optic disc. And just how I told you in the retina, all the vessels which you are seeing are branches of central retinal artery and of course central retinal vein. It enters the optic disc and that's why you see every vessel in the retina branches of central retinal artery and central retinal vein. So that is the blood supply of the retina and choroid. In a simple manner, we can write down like this. This ICA, ophthalmic artery is a branch of ICA, central retinal artery, ciliary artery. Ciliary can be anterior, can be posterior. Posterior can be short, can be long. Long anastomose with anterior ciliary artery to form arterial circles. But this lecture is not about going to details of the blood supply, just an orientation. So you should know a basic thing about the blood supply of the retina. But now here comes one step further. Central retinal artery has two branches, superficial and deep branch. Superficial branch is present in the nerve fiber layer of the retina, the second layer of the retina. While the deep branch, you can take it as outer plexiform layer of the retina. Means they are intraretinal. Central retinal artery is intraretinal. They are inside the retina structure. Superficial in the nerve fiber layer, deep vessel in the outer plexiform layer. So that is why if they are intraretinal, the blood from the vessel can easily go into the retina. But it does not. Why? Because there is a barrier by the name blood retinal barrier. There is something which is preventing the blood of the retina vessels to go into the retina. What is that? Blood retinal barrier. Inner barrier is because of central retinal artery vessels and is because of the tight junctions of the retina vascular endothelium, which prevents the vessel blood to go into the retina. And if something is inner, something has to be outer as well. The ciliary artery, central retinal artery supplies the inner 6 layers of the retina. The outer 4 does not have any blood supply, but they get nutrition from choroidal vessels. What are choroidal vessels? Nothing but short, long posterior ciliary artery. Now, how to prevent the choroidal vessels to go into the retina? Outer barrier. What is the outer barrier made of? The tight junctions of RP forms the outer barrier. So now we have told you the structure of the retina, the layers of the retina in short, the blood supply of the retina in short, and the two barriers. Everything in angiography is based on the blood supply and the barriers. You understand the meaning of barrier? The blood should remain in the blood vessel. It should not come into the retina. Blood retinal barrier. From this, let us see this picture. Angiography. And here comes the long question, 10 marks question. Write some points regarding retinal angiography and clinical applications. So angio means vessel, graphy means study. The study of the vessels of the retina and choroid is angiography. Can you tell me which retina is this, right or left, till now which I have taught? So this is optic disc. This is something fovea on the right side. So it has to be the right retina. Yes, it is right fluorescein, right angiography. So how to start? It is a study of the vessels of the choroid and retina. We should know the types of angiography. The second point you should write is the types. There are two types of angiography based on which dye is used. You can see the vessels have some white thing. White is dye. Which dye is used? Fluorescein dye and indocyanine green dye. That's why the name is fluorescein angiography and indocyanine green angiography. First point. Why? The second question is why only these two dyes are used? Because they have a property of fluorescence. Now this is the important property on which the angiography is based. What is fluorescence? Fluorescence is a property of an object. If this is an object, the incoming light is of low wavelength, while the outgoing light which is coming out of the object is of high wavelength. That becomes a fluorescence property. So fluorescein has a fluorescence property, indocyanine green has a fluorescence property, other dyes do not have, like trypan blue dye you study for cataract surgery, they don't have. So they cannot be used in angiography. Fluorescein and indocyanine can be used because when they go inside the blood vessels, they have a property of fluorescence, means they, if incoming light is low wavelength, outgoing light they will emit of higher wavelength. That we can capture. And which light comes inside? The fluorescein angiography, visible wavelength. So what is visible wavelength? Vibgyor. Vibgyor हमें पता है ना, फिजिक्स में पढ़ते थे, मैथ्स अच्छी है, फिजिक्स भी अच्छी है बचपन से. तो Vibgyor means increasing wavelength. So the color by which I have written in fluorescein angiography, the blue color light comes inside the fluorescein and the outgoing light is green. So blue is of low wavelength, green is of higher wavelength, satisfied fluorescence. What happens in ICG? 810 nanometers light come inside, 840 goes outside, that is also satisfying fluorescence. So types, two types. Why it is used? Property of fluorescence. Which light is coming in, which light is going outside, in both of them you can write. No extra point you can write down. In fluorescein angiography it is 80% protein to the plasma, while ICG is bound 98% to the plasma protein. Means very difficult to come out of the barriers. Still fluorescein has 80% protein bound, it can come out of the choriocapillaries. So that is why retina circulation, for retina circulation fluorescein is better, and choroidal circulation ICG is better. If you want to know about retina pathology, you prefer fluorescein angiography. If you want to see choroidal circulation, choroidal pathology, ICG is better, because fluorescein can pass from the choriocapillaries, but ICG cannot pass, 98% bound to protein. So these are some theoretical facts. So we have seen which dye is used, why this dye is used. Two types of angiography. Now let us see the procedure. The second point will be the technique or the procedure. So you see in your post-graduation you will see this complex image of a complex instrument device by which a fluorescein angiography is done. There is a screen over here, there is a complex machine like this, and patient is over sitting over here like he sits on the slit lamp. So very simple line diagram you can make like this. If this is the patient eyes, patient's retina is over here. This machine is sending the light, sending the normal white light, and there will be a blue excitation filter. What do you mean by blue excitation filter? That it will allow only the blue light. So blue light will come inside. Blue light will come inside. There are fluorescein inside the retina vessels which will emit green. So green light will come outside, and there is another filter, green filter, which will come out and will be captured in the device. There will be a photographic camera which will capture the light, and it will be seen on the screen. So simple line diagram, this is the machine M, light comes, blue excitation, blue light comes inside the retina vessels, it will have a fluorescence capability, green light comes outside, green, there is another filter, and which is captured by a camera in the machine. So that is a simple line diagram of a angiography, and we are talking about fluorescein angiography over here. What is the technique? Of course, you have to take the consent of the patient first. Okay, if you want to write on the technique, consent of the patient is taken first. Then of course you have to dilate the pupil because you have to see the retina. Then IV cannula. Now the question is how to make the dye reach the retina and choroidal vessels. Will we put the dye which is in our hand, fluorescein or ICG, directly into the retina vessels, directly into the central retinal artery or internal carotid artery? No, we have to put it in the circulation, peripheral circulation. Where? That's the important point. We put it in the antecubital vein in the forearm. From where it will come into the heart. From heart it will go into the ICA, ophthalmic artery, retina circulation, choroidal circulation. And how much fluorescein do we put? That is also important question. You can write down over here in your theory exam. 5 milliliter vial. There is a vial of 5 ml which contains 10% of sodium fluorescein. That is the amount we put, standard amount that is we put. So whenever you see a percent, 10%, 20%, it convert into milligram per ml, it will be just multiplied by 10. Means 10% will be 100 gram per ml. Means 1 ml will contain 100 milligram. And how much ml is there in the vial? 5 ml. So how many milligrams of fluorescein you are putting inside the arm in that 5 ml vial? 500 milligram you are putting. You know, math अच्छी ना हमारी. 10% means 100 milligram are there in 1 ml. How many ml are there? 5 ml. So 500 ml, 500 ml you inject in the antecubital vein, it will go into the heart, it will go into the ICA, ophthalmic artery, retina circulation, choroidal circulation. Now it will reach the retina and choroidal circulation, and you will take the photographs. From this, there is a point, you click the button, you will take a photographs on various intervals. And this is, you take a photograph. For example, now let us see this angiography. The technique is there. Now understand. This is the right retina, right angiography, fluorescein angiography. You are putting dye in the antecubital vein, it is going into the retina and choroidal vessels. These vessels which I am marking, these are retina or choroidal vessels. These are retina vessels. You see everywhere in the retina, artery and vein. And choroid is behind. Everywhere behind is a choroid. So the dye is going into the retina vessel and the choroidal vessel. But why it is not coming out? That's the question. Why it is not coming out of the vessel of the retina and choroid? Because of the inner and the outer barrier. Why it is not coming out of the retina vessels? Because of the inner barrier. Why it is not coming out of the choroidal vessels? Because of the outer blood retinal barrier. So the dye, white is the dye, is remaining inside the blood vessels of the retina and choroid. You can appreciate these which I have marked, these are the retina vessels, dye is not coming out, and everywhere in the posterior you can see a whitish hue because choroid also contains dye. But now a very important point. What is this part? So this is fovea and foveola. Why this part is dark on angiography? This is an additional point you can write down. Why it is dark on angiography? Why? Because it has no blood supply of the retina, central retinal artery is not supplying to the fovea and foveola. There are only 5-6 layers. The layers in which the central retinal artery vessels are present is not present in the fovea foveola. So there is no supply from the central retinal artery. So this is known as foveal avascular zone. There is no vessels over here of the central retinal artery. But this is the most important point of the retina. If it is not getting blood supply from central retinal artery, how it is getting nutrition? Of course, from the choroid, from the ciliary circulation, it is getting nutrition. Everywhere surrounding the retina, we are seeing the whitish hue because there is a choroid dye. Here also, behind there is choroidal vessels. Why we are not able to see the choroidal vessels? Because I told you there is heavily pigment. There are pigments which are present. The retinal pigment epithelium has pigment. Which pigment? Melanin pigment. Xanthophyll pigment. So because of high pigment concentration at the fovea and foveola, the dye which is present behind the fovea, foveola and the choroid is not visible. It is blocked fluorescence. Blocked hypofluorescence. If you see a dark in angiography, it is hypo. If you see white, the vessels are hyperfluorescence. So 2 words you should know, which I'll tell you in due time. So why is the fovea dark? 3 reasons. 1, no supplies from the central retinal artery, avascular zone. Second, why choroidal dye is not seen? Because of heavily pigmentation of the melanin and xanthophyll at the fovea. That is why it becomes dark hypofluorescence on angiography. This is a normal angiography. The next point you should write in your exam, stages of angiography. You put a dye, it goes to heart, it goes to ICA, it goes to retina and choroidal vessels. Where it should go first, retina or choroid? First it should go into the choroid because the orientation anatomy is like that. First it goes into short posterior ciliary artery. Means choroidal phase is the first phase. The first phase is choroidal. How much time it takes from the arm to come into the retina? Arm retina time is 11 seconds. 1 second before means about 10 seconds it reaches the choroid first. So choroidal hue is the first to be seen. Then it comes to the arterial phase. Arm retinal time 11 seconds. Arteries, of course, central artery is going to be filled. From artery it will go into the arteriovenous phase. In arteriovenous phase, the veins, they have a laminar flow. Only the initial periphery of the vein is filled first. The center is dark, which I'll show you in the video as well. That is the arteriovenous phase. In the vein, the periphery fills first and center later. So periphery will become white, center dark. Later on becomes completely white, venous phase. In about 30 seconds time, it reaches over here. And then as heart is pumping blood, so many times it recirculates, the dye recirculates, that is the late recirculation phase, and in 10 minutes time, it flushes out of the eye. In 10 minutes, all the dye is going out from the venous circulation. So the next point you can write down after the types, after the procedure, the stages of fluorescein angiography. These are the 5 stages of fluorescein angiography. If you can see over here, I'll show you a video. Which retina is this? So this is the optic disc, this is the fovea, right. You're starting the angiography, you're putting the dye will reach the choroid. You can see choroid is filling first. In 10 seconds, choroid start filling, choroidal phase. Then the dye is starting to fill in the artery. See, this is the arterial phase. 2:3, artery is thinner. Then arteriovenous phase, the vein will now fill. You can see this is a laminar flow. Very good. Excellent presentation over here. Excellent, you can see laminar flow. Center of the vein is dark, periphery is white, arteriovenous phase. Then slowly all the vein is filled. Venous phase, you can see slowly, venous phase, 30 seconds. Then it recirculates, 10 minutes it leaves the eye. This is how you capture the video again and again and again. Why it is dark? 3 reasons: foveal vascular zone, melanin, xanthophyll. So now do you know about the basics of fluorescein angiography? Let us now clinically apply. The next point you should write applications, clinical applications. So this is just a recorded lecture, that's why I'm going in this space. In the live there will be double the time which I'll take, so that if you want to make the notes, you can make the notes. Clinical applications, but this is how we will go. From till now you have seen what is the basics of angiography. To understand that, you should know about the retina layers, retina blood supply, blood retinal barrier. Then we should know what is the procedure, types, procedure, stages. Now let us clinically apply. So 2 things I have told you in angiography. One is, if the dye is seen more, it is hyperfluorescence. If the dye is seen less, hypofluorescence. 4 causes of hyperfluorescence in toto, 2 causes of hypofluorescence. We will see one by one with clinical examples. Now the clinical example will be, of course, when we will study the retina, we will teach some retina pathologies in which all of these are seen in detail. But I will tell you one by one today in a short manner. What will you see? What is pooling? So let us see one by one. Let us see first. Hyper means more dye you are seeing. Pooling means, for example, this is a OCT. Do you think it is normal or abnormal? This is the picture I showed you. This is normal OCT. For example, if there is an outer barrier break. Outer barrier break is made up of RP. Where is RP? Over here. If there is an outer barrier break, what will happen? The choroidal fluid will come into the retina. Outer barrier break is preventing the choroidal fluid to come into the retina. If there is an outer barrier break, what will happen? The choroidal fluid will come into the retina layers like this. If there is a break over here, choroidal fluid will come and it will separate the 9 layers of the retina from the RP. That is what we will study is known as retinal detachment. And when it is due to excessive fluid coming from choroid, we call it as exudative retinal detachment. Due to outer barrier break, only the central retina is getting detached. We call it as central serous retinopathy. That will be the example of pooling. Now, if you do a angiography in this, you put a dye, goes to heart, goes to the retina and choroidal circulation. Choroid, there is a break over here. Fluid is coming. So dye will also come and pool in this subretinal space. So where will you see the white dye now extra? In the center or the peripheral retina? Central retina. So if you can see over this, right angiography, in the central retina, the dye is pooling in the central retina. So this is an example of a pooling central serous retinopathy. The dye will rise like smoke. So the pattern is known as smokestack pattern or ink blot pattern. First example of this is hyperfluorescence, central serous retinopathy. So you can write down causes of hyperfluorescence. First, pooling. Example, central serous retinopathy, ink blot, smokestack appearance that you see in angiography. Alright, due to outer barrier break. Next, leaking. Example of leaking, there is an inner barrier also. Now, inner barrier is made up of endothelium of the central retinal artery vessels. It can be broken in various conditions, many conditions like diabetic retinopathy, venous occlusions, central retinal venous occlusions, branch venous occlusions, some inflammations like uveitis, and various drugs can break the inner barrier. Now, what will happen if there is an inner barrier break? The endothelium is broken down, so the retina vessels will leak. The fluid will come out. Where will they go? They go into the outer plexiform layer. I told you there is outer plexiform, the other name is Henle's layer. The orientation of Henle's layer is radial. In the central retina, it is radial configuration. So what it will do? The fluid is pumping into the outer plexiform layer, it will form cystic spaces. If cystic spaces are formed in the retina, what will happen? You see, the thickness of the retina will be increased. Cystic spaces, black are cystic spaces, OCT, cystic spaces, name is cystoid macular edema. So second example, leaking, cystoid macular edema due to break of inner barrier. Examples, these examples. What will happen if you put a dye? Vessels are leaking, dye will also leak, dye will go into outer plexiform, Henle's layer. Orientation of Henle's is radial configuration at the macula, fovea. So the dye will radially go in the central retina. In the late stages, see late stages, the vessels, almost the dye is gone, but it will remain it will leak till the late stages in a radial configuration because it is present in the outer plexiform layer, Henle's layer. This pattern you call it as like a flower petal pattern. Very important. Flower petal appearance in cystoid macular edema. Second example of hyperfluorescence. Hyper है ना? White is dye is white. Example, all these examples, diabetic, CRVO, BRVO example. Second, leaking. First, pooling. Second, leaking. Okay. Staining. Third is staining. Now there is a condition known as age-related macular. Because of the age, the right retina, the central retina here you can see, has some depositions. The depositions are known as drusense, which have a capability of late staining on angiography. Not so important, but still you can see there is also hyperfluorescence because the drusense, which are present in the last layers and the subretinal layers of the retina, they have a capacity of absorbing the fluorescein. So there is hyperfluorescence in the central retina because they are like, so this is the normal retina, photoreceptors, rods and cones, and RP, Brooks and choroid. This is the orientation. Normally what happens in youngs, the waste of the retina goes into the choriocapillaries and goes out of the eye. But as we age, the retina excretory products are deposited in the RP and Brooks membrane. That is known as drusen, and it is deposited in the central retina. That's why it is known as macular degeneration. If it is only drusen, it is known as dry. If new vessels come, if the new vessels from the choroid start growing, that is choroidal new vascularization, that becomes a wet ARMD. That we'll study in the ARMD topic when I'll teach you the retinal topic. So these drusens have a capability of absorbing, staining in later stages. So that is also hyperfluorescence example. Fourth example, window defect. What you can see in this OCT picture, in the central retina there is a hole over here. This is a macular hole. If you put a dye over here, the dye which is present in the choroid can be seen clearly because there is a defect, window defect over here. So that will also be seen like a hyperfluorescence over here. So window defect is another example of hyperfluorescence. We can give the examples of macular hole. So 4 examples of hyperfluorescence we have seen, which you can write down in your exam like this. First was pooling, CSR. Second is leaking, various condition, diabetic retinopathy, CRVO. Third is staining, ARMD, window defect, for example, macular hole. Now let us see the example of hypofluorescence. Okay, but to tell you that, let us see one picture. See, in diabetic retinopathy, that's important that you see. Diabetic retinopathy you can see in various conditions. In the initial stages of diabetic retinopathy, when I'll teach you in the live lecture, I'll tell you diabetic retinopathy. What you can see in the right retina, this is optic disc, this is the fovea. You can see dots, hyperfluorescence dots, hyperfluorescence. These are also leaking because in diabetic retinopathy, these are microaneurysms, microaneurysms, which is seen in the early stages of diabetic retinopathy. You call it as mild non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. So these are also hyperfluorescence example, leaking, hyperfluorescence. But what happens in the late stages of diabetic retinopathy? What happens in late stages of diabetic retinopathy is, if this is a retina, diabetic retinopathy is a microangiopathy. It affects the capillary. So for example, this capillary is affected. This capillary becomes blocked later on. So this part of the retina which is supplied by this vessel will not get blood supply. This becomes hypoxic, no blood supply, no oxygen, ischemic. Whenever retina becomes ischemic, it will liberate a chemical mediator, VEGF, vascular endothelium growth factor. From the hypoxic retina, it will be released. And as the name suggests, it will lead to formation of new vessels. And new vessels have a property of leaking the dye. So this ischemic retina is not getting blood supply. So think it will be hypofluorescent or hyperfluorescent. There is no blood supply. So ischemic retina will be hypofluorescence. If you can see in this picture, right retina, these yellow areas are dark because these yellow areas are hypofluorescence because of ischemic retina. What is ischemic retina producing? VEGF. What is VEGF doing? New vessels. New vessels have a property of leaking the dye. The endothelium is not well made in the new vessels. They leak the dye continuously. So here you can see this white hyperfluorescence, which is increasing dye, leaking dye. So the dark area is a filling defect. Dark area is a filling defect due to ischemia. And again this hyperfluorescence is due to leaking, that is nothing but new vessels. It can be on the optic disc, it can be elsewhere on the retina like this. And later on, if the new vessels, they are above the retina, they leak the blood, they leak the dye. So blood will go from the retina, they are above the retina, they come into the vitreous. So if there is a vitreous blood, this becomes a proliferative diabetic retinopathy. If there is a vitreous blood, everywhere in the vitreous there is blood. Will the retina be seen? Will the choroid be seen? No. So this is also dark. This is a blocked hypofluorescence, masking of the retina and the choroid. So one example is a filling defect which you saw initially in hypofluorescence. Second example is masking of the retina and choroid vessels, because anything which is pre-retinal hemorrhage, vitreous hemorrhage, of course if there is a vitreous hemorrhage, the retina dye, the choroid dye will not be seen, it will be hypofluorescence. Two examples of hypo: filling defect, these dark yellow areas are filling defect, and such a big area because of vitreous and pre-retinal hemorrhage, masking of the retina and choroidal circulation. Everything here is seen in proliferative diabetic retinopathy. Okay, so this is the examples of hyper and hypofluorescence, each we have seen. But let us, for an additional point, if we can write down lastly to get very good marks in a theory exam, what you can see in this picture. This is the right retina, optic disc and fovea. But is this angiography? See the retina vessels, they are dark. Retina vessels, they are not dark, they are white in angiography because they have dye. So this is not angiography. This is just autofluorescence. How to differentiate autofluorescence from angiography? See the vessels. If the vessels have dye, it is angiography. You are using a dye. Autofluorescence, you are not using any dye. Autofluorescence is used in some conditions which themselves, auto, have a property of fluorescence. Two, you should know, drusen's deposition in the retina have a property of autofluorescence. Lipofuscin deposition in the retina have a property of autofluorescence. Means if these two are deposited in the retina, they will absorb a low wavelength light and they emit a high wavelength light. No need of using dye. Autofluorescence. You will see examples. This is also autofluorescence example I am telling you. For example, these are drusen's. This white eye are drusen's, which you see in ARMD. They can be seen on optic disc as well, optic disc drusen's, and of course in ARMD, age-related macular degeneration, you saw drusen's deposition in the macula. So they see it is vessels are dark. So it is not angiography, this is autofluorescence, and they are also example of hyperfluorescence because they can emit a high wavelength light which can be captured. So optic disc drusen's and ARMD, two examples of drusen's deposition in the retina and optic disc. One example of fluorescein deposition, lipofuscin deposition. Stargardt is a dystrophy of the retina. In the dystrophy of the retina, the lipofuscin covers the entire RP layer. Last layer of the retina is covered by the lipofuscin. So everything is covered by the lipofuscin. The choroid dye is not seen. That's why on angiography, see this is angiography because vessels are white. Vessels are white, dark choroid, lipofuscin is covering the entire choroid dye. It is dark choroid. But if you do a autofluorescence, this lipofuscin deposition will be hyperfluorescent because they have a property of emitting a high wavelength light. This is a autofluorescence because the vessels does not have dye. So Stargardts have lipofuscin deposition in the RP layer. So for extra point you can write on autofluorescence, one drusen's, two examples, optic disc drusen's, ARMD, and Stargardt disease, lipofuscin deposition, that is also hyperfluorescence. Okay, so that is how you can end your theory exam topic, starting from the types of angiography. Second point, the technique, procedure of angiography. Third, stages of angiography. Fourth, clinical point divided into hyper and hypofluorescence. And now in the Viva exam, let us see a Viva exam. This picture is given to you and you are asked to interpret this image. How do you interpret the image? Now if you have understood this session properly, you will say, so this is what, autofluorescence or angiography? So this is angiography of the right eye, right retina of the patient, in which we can see hyperfluorescence areas and hypofluorescence areas. We can see some dots which can be microaneurysms. These dark areas might be some filling defects due to ischemia of the retina, which produces VEGF and which can lead to new vessels formation, which leaks the dye and have this hyperfluorescence, that is new vascularization elsewhere. Most probably this is a diabetic retinopathy patient, and if we are seeing this new vessels, it becomes a proliferative diabetic retinopathy. This is how you interpret in the Viva if the image is given. If you go step by step, angiography or not, autofluorescence angiography, which eye, right eye, left eye, right eye, hypofluorescence area, hyperfluorescence area, and your interpretation based on that. This is how we go in your live lectures, because in live lectures we will go in a, it will be live. This was a recorded version just for demonstration. So in live we'll go a little bit of slow. If you can make notes, you can make notes, and those who are missing the live lectures, we have a recorded versions for them to see as well later on. Alright, so this, in this what you saw, we did some clinical examination skill, how to do a fluorescence angiography in a proper way, in an ideal way. How to read a basic chart, fluorescence angiography, how to read it. And it is a textbook. With textbook like manner, we saw how to write the exams, questions in the theory exam. That is our aim in the teaching modules. In every sessions, we will see how to go from the basics and how we can clinically correlate a simple investigation or a simple topic, starting from the basics and to the clinical applications. So we are starting this course on the 3rd of February, and if you want to enroll it, you can go to the eMedico session. In the courses, it's a live teaching course section over there. There you can enroll it. You can use my mentor code. There will be instant discount for you people. And we have also kept till 15th of January. If you come in a group of 5 or more, there is an additional discount from my side. Alright, thank you for listening this session on angiography. Best wishes everyone. Let us start the session from 3rd of February. Thank you.